Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
प्रभुपाद का हार गिर गया, नहीं लगा दो। प्रभुपाद को हार लगाया था ना, वो गिर गया। प्रभुपाद का गार्लेंड वो नीचे गिर गया, निकाल दो उसको।
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama,
Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Pastatadesha Tarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So everyone has a past, everyone is in the present, and everybody has a future. And some people suffer because of their past. Some people are suffering now, and some people are fearing they're going to suffer in the future. On the other hand, some people have good experiences in the past, and maybe they're happy now, and they're expecting a good future. But generally, it's a mixture. Everybody has a mixture of happiness and distress in this world. And this is described also by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. There's no perfect happiness, and there's no complete distress. There's something in between. But we do worry about the distress. We don't like the distress. We don't like the pain. We don't like the sickness. We don't like the accident. We don't like the loss of money. We don't like the loss of job, whatever. So we suffer because of that. And that these things always happen. And so we have anxiety about that, what's going to happen in the future. Maybe I lose my money, lose my job, or whatever like this. So we've got lots of problems. So we're always worried about the future. So then we can look at our hand, and you'll find the little lines here. And you'll wonder which line is gonna, end in disaster or whatever like that. So they do have, some techniques. If the lines are broken, if the lines got little islands in them, not good, like this, and they can tell when you're going to get the disaster, when you get a health problem, etc., like this. Similarly, in astrology, you look at the planets. When you look at which planet is ruling at the moment, and you see where that is in your chart, whether it's strong or weak, and 8th house or 12th house or whatever like this, or 6th house or whatever, if it's a bad place, then you're going to have problems. So we find we have means of predicting to some extent our future. This is good in one sense, just like you go to the doctor, and you got a little pain, so you go to the doctor, then he gets X-ray or something and figures out what's wrong with you. Maybe it's serious, maybe it's not serious. But anyway, we go to the doctor because he can give us a diagnosis of some sort and maybe save our life in the future or whatever. So if we have this knowledge about the future, it's handy for us at least. But we should never think that these methods, whether it's astrology or medicine or reading your palm or whatever, it's going to solve all your problems. It gives us a little knowledge of the future, but it doesn't really solve all our problems. The real thing is, what are we going to do? We have to make some choices to change the situation. Of course, the doctor can tell you, okay, don't smoke, don't drink, or something like this, help you change your life like that. The astrologer, then he may tell you to go to worship Durga or Shiva or something to get rid of the bad planetary effects like that. Same with the astrologer or whatever. So we have various means to try to relieve ourselves of these sufferings in the world. But we should realize all of this is very temporary or patchwork. It doesn't really solve the problem. Why? Because yes, we can get healthy, but it's not good health forever. Everybody dies, and everybody's probably experienced, okay, parents are going to die, grandparents die, everybody dies. I will also die. So no matter how much we safeguard our life, sooner or later there's some disaster for friends, for relatives, for mother, for father, for children, for ourselves. So this is the nature of the world. We cannot solve all the problems completely. When we realize that, this one step forward, we're progressing a little bit. But we do have to find an answer. Why are we suffering? How can I solve the problem permanently, not just temporarily or patchwork? So there is no science at the moment that can solve that problem. They may give promises for the future, but nobody's solved this problem up to date. They've been trying since time immemorial to become immortal, but it hasn't taken place. We know there's a story of the pot of nectar, and the demons and the devas just turned the milk ocean and got the nectar, and they're thinking, Amrita, I drink it, I become immortal. But it's not real immortality. No, it's not at all. They don't live forever, even if they drink that. It's false promise. However, the Vedic scriptures tell us that actually there is a way of surpassing birth and death, and sickness and old age and disease and rebirth, etc. There is a method of doing that. But it's not material. So you can't do it through medicine, you can't do it through pills, you can't do it through vaccines, whatever. You can't do it through your astrology or your palmistry or whatever. It's not going to work. This is a completely spiritual solution to the problem. How do we know this? We could speculate, but we'll never know the truth. Therefore, we have to have a leap of faith, and we have to have a belief in some scripture. So, this movement is based on scripture. So we take Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam as our authority, scripture. And nobody can really challenge this in India. Everybody knows it's a scripture. So we accept this as scripture, and then we take the statements, and with our leap of faith, we accept them. So the Bhagavad Gita is very interesting because in the very second chapter, the very first teaching solves most of the problems that we have: birth, death, old age, disease, sickness, etc. permanently, which nobody in the material world has come up with yet. So it's a very simple answer. And the answer is that actually, as long as you identify with the body, you're not going to solve the problem. When you understand you're not the body, and within you there is the eternal soul, an Atma, a Jiva, that never is born and never dies, then you can surpass death. Then you can surpass birth. You can get out of this material world completely. So this is the concept which is presented in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures. It's a very simple concept. You're the soul, not the body. The soul is eternal. So that's the philosophical aspect. And some people will get some relief when they get some rational basis for getting rid of their anxiety, etc. But it also has to have a practical application. How are we going to realize that I'm not the body, I'm the soul? We could say it, yes, but when it comes down to getting a pain in your body, then you're back to thinking you're the body again. So how do we actually realize all of this? So we have a philosophy with, you're the soul, not the body. There's the Supreme Lord Krishna, and we're the servant of Krishna. So that's our philosophy. Good. But we do have to have a method of experiencing that, realizing that. Yeah? And when we do realize it, that's when our problems really get solved. Of course, if we get the philosophy, that's one step. But when we get the realization, that's a higher step. So, fortunately, the Vedas also provide that method. Actually, if we look in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives many methods, which may be confusing. But there's a reason for giving many methods. And the reason is that he's speaking according to qualification. Different people are qualified for different things. Just like in school, you have elementary school, you have secondary school, then you get college, then you get graduate school. So we get 4 different levels of qualification. And we can't expect the person in primary school to jump up to the graduate school. It doesn't work. He has to go through all the stages. So the Bhagavad Gita presents us different processes for advancement towards realizing We're not the body, we're the soul, and we're the eternal servant of Krishna. So the first step is called karma yoga, which in India generally says dharma. That general concept of dharma means follow the rules of and the principles of a varnashram system, as enunciated in the dharma scriptures like Manu, Smriti, etc. And most people in India, they, to some extent, follow some of those rules, not all of them, but some of those rules. So that's the first step. That's the lowest step. And that is an attempt to help us control our senses so that we can live a stable life now on earth in terms of raising family, supporting the family, living peacefully in society, contributing to the whole nation, etc. This is all what Dharma is about. And it's divided up. People on the lowest level in Tamagun, people in Rajagun, people in Sattvagun. We have the Sudras, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Brahmanas, all with different sets of rules according to their qualification. So the attempt of that is to raise us in the material world up to higher consciousness, till the point that we can begin to appreciate, I'm not the body, I am the Atma, I am the soul. At least we get some little bit of intuition of that. Then we're ready for the other processes, Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, which are all explained in Bhagavad Gita. So, with the Jnana Yoga, then there is the philosophical study of things like Upanishads, by which you understand, I am not the body, I am the soul. And then you follow a sadhana, practice of renunciation, starting to withdraw from the material world. And then you can go into a more practical process of Astanga Yoga, in which you also practice austerities, and then you do asanas and pranayama and dhyana, and try to go into samadhi, the state of realizing the Atma. If we succeed in Jnana Yoga or Astanga Yoga, then we can realize Atma. We have an experience of I'm not the body, I'm the soul. So that's one realization, not just theoretical knowledge. So those are two processes for doing that, Jnana Yoga and Astanga Yoga. Unfortunately, they are rather difficult to follow for most people in the modern day. In previous ages, people were highly qualified, and they lived long periods of time, and they could follow these processes. Furthermore, you have to be fixed in sattva, the highest process. So generally, only Brahmins would practice Jnana Yoga, for instance. And it takes a long time because you have to stop your senses, you have to deprive yourself, you have to fast, you have to live in a lonely place, etc. So it's quite difficult for most people to follow. The fourth process is the final process. This is called Bhakti Yoga. And this is the which makes up the principal part of the Bhagavad Gita. That is Bhakti Yoga. In fact, the middle 6 chapters are all about Bhakti Yoga, 7 through 12. It's all Bhakti. So, Bhakti Yoga, how is it a progression over Jnana Yoga and Astanga Yoga? Yes, there is acceptance of Atma, soul, except I'm not the body, I'm the soul. But then there's another principle. I am the soul, and there's a supreme soul, Krishna, and I am the servant of Krishna. Not a slave of Krishna, but a servant in the sense that we are devoted to him and we express our love for him. So that love we call bhakti, and it matures into prema. So we have a relation of love with God. That is the process of Bhakti Yoga. So that's the final stage. We realize not only Atma, or soul, we also realize God, Supreme Lord. What's the benefit of that? Bliss. We experience the highest love, which produces the highest bliss. So that's the process of Bhakti Yoga. So the Bhagavad Gita presents all of these processes where you can gradually advance from Karma Yoga, then to Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, and then come to Bhakti Yoga. So you can go gradually. So that's why all the processes are described in Bhagavad Gita. However, even that is a little difficult to do. because it's going to take many, many births. Even for the Jnani to progress takes many births. So even for Karma Yoga takes many births. So to go from Jnana Yoga, Sangha Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, up that process is going to take many, 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 many births. Furthermore, our particular age is not suited for any of these processes, and very, very few people can do these processes. So what are we to do? Solution is, forget about the first three processes, just do Bhakti Yoga. So at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Give up all dharmas and just surrender to Krishna. Which means forget Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sangha Yoga. Just do Bhakti Yoga. That's the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. And nobody can argue with that. This is a simple statement made at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. You follow the process of bhakti and forget everything else. Yeah? So that is said because the other processes are going to take too long and not too practical for us. So therefore just do Bhakti Yoga. Now the only objection to that is, well, we do Bhakti Yoga, we're not qualified because it's the highest process. It's like going to PhD. When we're at elementary school, how can we jump up to PhD? So, Bhakti Yoga is very special. Yes, it's the PhD course, but it's backed by Krishna. He's the one that sponsors this. So his energy is in that Bhakti Yoga. And therefore, it doesn't require you to go all these other processes. It can take the person on the lowest level and put them up to the highest level by magic, so to speak. Sometimes we see the university gives an honorary degree to somebody, maybe not even graduated from university or anything, give him an honorary PhD. Of course, he may not have the knowledge, but hopefully he does. But so this is like Bhakti Yoga with Krishna behind it. He'll take people from the lowest level, and through the process of Bhakti Yoga, by his energy, he puts them on the top process without having to go through all of this. So that is why Bhakti is very special. It's open for everybody, and it's most powerful. And it can raise us from any position in this world up to the topmost position. Yeah? Which means that anybody can progress from the lowest position of suffering to the highest bliss. With no distinction of man, woman, country, varna, etc. Simply practice bhakti. That has become made a little easier. Even bhakti may look a little difficult for many people. How we get, so many ways we can do bhakti, deity worship, etc. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago, and he introduced a method called Nam Sankirtan, which means chanting the name of the Lord. In particular, chanting the name of Krishna. This is also called Yuga Dharma. So there are 4 yugas that rotate continually for 1,000 times in one day of Brahma. And we're now in a Kali Yuga, which lasts 400,000 years or so. And just the beginning. And each yuga has a particular spiritual process which is recommended for us. So in our Kali Yuga, then the process is Nam Sankirtan. That's the process we should follow. The majority of the people. That's the main process. So this we call the Yuga Dharma, chanting the name of the Lord. So this is very special. It's a process of bhakti, but it's a special process of bhakti. Why? Because you don't need any qualification. And even if you do it accidentally, you get great results. So we have the story of Ajamil. He was a Brahmana. He became very sinful. And then he married a prostitute. Then he had children. And finally he had one son when he was an old man. And he named the son Narayana. So that was his good fortune. He wasn't a devotee of the Lord. He didn't believe in Narayana or anything. He just named his son Narayana. And he continued to do his sinful activities. And then he died. And then the servants of Yamaraj came to get him because he had done so many sinful activities, killing, stealing, whatever. and they were going to drag him off to hell. And when they were about to do so, then the servants of Vishnu came and said, "You cannot touch him." And the Yamaduta said, "Why? We've seen he's done so many sinful activities, he deserves to get the punishment in hell." And the servants of Vishnu said, "No, yeah, he's done these sinful activities, but he also chanted the name of Vishnu. And our master Vishnu says, anyone who chants the name of Vishnu, he is free from all those hellish reactions." And the servants of Yahweh said, "How is that possible?" Well, how can that happen? And the servants of Vishnu said, "Well, that's what our master says. And your master, Yamaraj, is a servant of Vishnu also. So you have to follow his instructions. Anyone who chants the name even accidentally is free of all sinful reactions. Yamaraj cannot touch him." And so that was the effect of accidentally uttering the name Narayan, because he named his son Narayan. So that's just say Narayana, Krishna, except this is calling out the name of the Lord. This is what we call the name of the Lord. And we have Nama Sankirtan. So we chant the name of the Lord, usually in kirtan, singing, etc., as they've just done now. And it's most powerful spiritual method available in the universe, past, present, future. But it's only revealed in Kali Yuga. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has revealed this in our Kali Yuga, chanting of the name of the Lord. But Lord Chaitanya is also very special. He's not just an ordinary, regular Yuga avatar. Krishna also, who appeared 5,000 years, is not a regular avatar. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is the source of all avatars. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna. So both of them are very special. So Lord Chaitanya is not just ordinary avatar, so he's also got some special Shakti in him, special power. So when he gives the name, it's just not the ordinary Nam Sankirtan, it's very special because it's imbued with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shakti also. So this makes whatever Lord Chaitanya gives very, very special. So Lord Chaitanya, of course, chanted many names, but the principal name is this Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So simply the names of the Lord. Doesn't require any qualification. Other mantras require diksha, take a guru, get some secret mantra and chant with special rules. So this doesn't require any initiation or whatever. Everybody can chant, no rules and regulations. Very, very free. But that does not detract from its power. It is most powerful. And as I said, because it's Lord Chaitanya's bringing it, even more powerful. There's also another secret here. Most powerful because Lord Chaitanya is not different from Krishna. Krishna is supreme. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has, he's called the most merciful, more merciful than Krishna. Krishna is most merciful because we see if he kills someone like Putana, what happens when he kills Putana? Krishna kills Putana, who tries to kill him by giving her poison in breast milk, and Krishna kills her. And what happens? Putana ends up in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha, even though she's a murderess, tries to kill Krishna. He's so merciful, he takes her to the spiritual world. No qualification at all. Demon. So Krishna very merciful. But we say, Lord Chaitanya is even more merciful. So why is that? Lord Chaitanya doesn't kill anybody. And still he elevates them to the highest level. So that's what Lord Chaitanya does. He doesn't kill the demons, he makes them into great devotees right on earth. So even the lowest people can elevate. And how? Through Nam Sankirtan. But then there's another secret of Lord Chaitanya. So he presents, of course, Krishna's name, and he tells everybody worship Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya himself has a special mission, personal inner mission, not just to distribute Nam Sankirtan, and that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, though he is Krishna, he takes the role of Radha to experience Radha's love for Krishna. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya is a combination of Krishna and the mood of Radha. And who is Radha? She's more merciful than Krishna also. If we want to approach Krishna, we go through Radha. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. So very powerful combination, therefore most merciful of all. So that is expressed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Harinam that he gives, the Mahamantra. So not only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us the name of Krishna, he also gives us the name of Radha. So when we chant Hare, this is standing for Hara, and Hara is Radha. So therefore we're chanting Radha's name as well as Krishna's name. So we're invoking the mercy of Radharani and the mercy of Krishna. And what does that do? Then we can realize not only Krishna, we can also realize Radha and her love for Krishna. So Krishna is very rare, most blissful, but Krishna is most blissful with his devotees, and he's supremely blissful with the highest devotee, who is Radha. So Radha and Krishna represent the highest possible bliss in the spiritual world. And that love is what Lord Chaitanya brings and offers us in the material world by chanting Hare Krishna. So that he's got very, very special gift he's giving all the people of Kali Yuga. So this is very rare. Even Krishna doesn't give that. But Lord Chaitanya gives this. And when Lord Chaitanya is gone, and then other yugas, again, they don't get. So we're at a very auspicious moment in Kali Yuga where we can take advantage of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We chant this name and we get the highest results. So if we get the highest results, that is Krishna Prema or Radha Krishna Prema, highest bliss possible in the spiritual world, which is eternal, then all of these problems in the material world, they disappear. When we get the higher principle, all the things are adjusted in the material world. So this is the solution to our problems in the present day. Everybody is worried, everybody's suffering, there's anxiety, and everybody's confused. So we should get a clear idea what our goal in life is, and through the Bhagavad Gita, and then apply the method that is given to us. That is, surrender to Krishna, forget all the other dharmas, and follow the order of Lord Chaitanya to do Dham Sankirtan. And through this we get the highest perfection of life. So this is the solution to all of our problems here. Okay. Any question there?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the lecture. I have two questions. First is, you just mentioned that Bhakti doesn't have any qualifications.
Yeah.
Just without any pre-qualifications. What is the correct understanding of the verse, Isham tu antagatam papam, jananam punya karmana? It says that when the paps are destroyed, then you can do bhajan se vidadata.
Yeah.
What is the correct understanding?
Yeah. There are several ways of interpreting that. One interpretation is that the punya karma refers to agyata sukriti, which means previous activities of bhakti, because that's the best punya. So we can say that bhakti is also a type of punya, but it's a very transcendental punya compared to the other punyas. Sometimes we say that chanting the holy name is the best punya, because whatever you can get from doing pious activities in this world, or whatever you can get from bhakti, but you get more from bhakti. So it's the best punya, it's the best yoga, it's the best meditation, it's the best of all of these different things. Vrata is the best tapas, it's the best everything. So in that sense, we can say the punya is bhakti itself. Generally, bhakti is caused by bhakti, not by punya. It's not dependent on any other process. Punya, pious activities, is material. Sattva-gun activities, which produce sattva-gun results, or destroys your tamagun results of karmas. But bhakti cannot be produced by a material method. So only bhakti produces bhakti. So then what are these activities that you do that produce bhakti? It means previous activities of bhakti. But if we weren't a devotee, didn't have any faith, how could we do bhakti? So therefore, it is accidental bhakti. And we get the mercy of devotees by which we are engaged in bhakti, and we don't know it. And when that accumulates, we get shraddha or faith, then we do bhakti. Yeah. So, for instance, no faith, therefore you won't go to the temple. You'll avoid devotees if you see them. Whatever, no faith, you're just going to avoid everybody. You do your hard work or whatever. But then somehow or other, somebody gives you some Krishna prasadam and you eat it. That's all, you eat it. So you don't know what's prasadam? Well, okay, it tastes nice. So that's unconscious bhakti. And it influences the soul. It has an effect on your atma. Your atma gets a little bit inclined towards Krishna. And then if you get prasadam in next life once, you get a little more inclination for Krishna in the soul. You get it next life, a little more like this. So over 20 births, you get one bite of prasadam every lifetime once. Then you get enough inclination for Krishna, you develop faith. And they think, okay, maybe Krishna is nice, I'll go and inquire and see about what is Bhagavad Gita or something like that. And then you can begin bhakti. So that's the cause of bhakti would be the agyata sukriti, or the unconscious or accidental acts of bhakti, created by devotees altogether. So it's the mercy of devotees that leads to bhakti.
But how does it relate to that first line, Tesham to Anagatam Papa? How does it relate to Anagatam of Papa?
Well, the punya karmas is it will destroy all of your papas, yeah? So the process, as I said, what Ajabil simply chanted the name once, all of his karma is gone, all of his sins are gone. So even if you have unconsciously hearing name of Krishna, your sins go. So that's your punya karma, basically also. Accidental hearing the name of Krishna, accidentally take a prasad, accidentally sing Jagannath and Rath Yatra, whatever.
The second one, you mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna is a special incarnation for this Kali Yuga. So yesterday you mentioned that Krishna is usually called as Tri Yuga. In the first 3 yugas he always appears as himself, but only in this yuga he appears as himself, but in other Kali Yuga cycles he appears as
usually he appears, he is the Supreme Lord, he's called Tri Yuga. So in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, he is actually a form of the Supreme Lord called a Yuga Avatar.
Every yuga, sir.
Yeah, and in every Kali Yuga, he's a Shaktavesh Avatar because he's supposed to be only 3 yugas, so he's a Jiva with special powers, but they call him Avatar, so he's kind of in between, like that. But in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's not a Shaktavesh Avatar, he is same as Krishna, and Krishna's not this the regular Yuga Avatar, he is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, so both of them are very special. But because he's only supposed to be Tri Yuga, Lord Chaitanya also hides his powers and acts like a devotee of the Lord. So he's Bhakta Avatar, he's called Bhakta Avatar. So the Lord comes as a devotee of the Lord instead of proclaiming himself as the Lord.
But the Krishna that came 5,000 years ago was the actual Krishna, right? He wasn't in this yuga cycle, he's not the Shaktavesh Avatar, he's the actual Avatar. So for this yuga cycle,
Yeah. Well, the Dwapara and Satya, Treta, Dwapara, they're not Shaktavesh avatars. Only the Kali Yuga, because he's Tri Yuga. So only the Kali Yuga one will be a Shaktavesh avatar under normal circumstances. But when the Pre-Yuga avatar is Krishna, who is the source of all avatars, so he's a little bit different. It is said that the other Yuga avatars are expansions from the Manvantara avatar, who's an expansion from Garbhadakshay Vishnu. So that's the expansion of expansion of expansion. But then Krishna comes himself, then he is quite different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have something to add to when Krishna is Krishna, she was actually serving Krishna in a way by giving the
Yeah. Well, yes, she was. And she also dressed up like a gopi. But her intention was pretty evil. She dressed up like a gopi so nobody would suspect that she was a demon. And then she smeared poison on her breast when she fed Krishna in order to kill him. So she had an act like a mother, but her intention was not a mother, but rather to kill Krishna. So it was rather a devious plan. But Krishna did not look at the wicked part of her nature, which is to try to kill Krishna by devious means. Then he said, okay, she dressed up like a gopi, that's nice. Gopis are nice. She dressed up like a gopi, so that's the good part. So then he was merciful to her and liberated her from the material world and gave her a body in the spiritual world, like a nurse. She could be a nurse in the spiritual world. But her act was actually not devotional at all. It was to kill Krishna. So that's why she's called a demon.
Maharaj, you mentioned that when we start doing devotional practice, then sometimes some unfavorable situations come in our life. So does it happen because of our bad karma, or I have heard when we start doing bhakti, it doesn't affect us. So does it because of our bad karma, our previous life karma, or Krishna intervenes?
How are we getting all the bad reactions when we're practicing bhakti? Is it bad karma or is it Krishna's arrangement? Well, we can never tell what it is, but obviously it can be a combination of these. Now, generally, of course, if you do bhakti, your karmas get destroyed. That's Arjuna's karmas got all destroyed. But 2 points here. One is that if we have committed some offenses previously, the effect of destroying our karmas is not so quick. So we'll still have some karmas left over. In other words, Ajamil had committed aparadhs, he would not have got rid of all of his things. And Yamaraj would have got him a little bit and punished him a little bit at least. But he had no aparadhs, therefore all of his sins gone like that. So if we have aparadhs behind us, then the destruction of the karmas is only gradual, so we'll experience some suffering, but not as much suffering as we would if we had no bhakti at all.
But Maharaj, how do we understand that when Krishna is interfering in our life and taking us closer to Him, towards the bhakti, or is it the suffering? Or, like, how should we understand? Is it a Krishna signal or is it?
Well, if we say, well, it's all Krishna's fault, he's punishing me for something else, then it's not reflecting good on Krishna. So better we just think, oh, it's my karma. I'm responsible for this because I'm responsible for our karmas, so I should just bear it. But if we take that attitude, Krishna's very merciful to us, and he gives us more mercy. So in other words, we tolerate whatever, we don't know the reason why it's there, or whatever, like the karma or aparadha or whatever, we don't know, but we tolerate it and we say this, I'm responsible for this, but I will continue my bhakti, I will continue to serve the Lord in spite of whatever I've done. And then Krishna is very happy with that, and he gives mercy. Did we what?
If we reach bhava stage
Yeah.
or prema stage, then only we can go back to spiritual world, or
Yeah.
it's just the bonus, like if
Yeah.
we reach attain bhava stage or prema stage.
Well, the general principle is you cannot go to the spiritual world unless you have prema. That's the pure state. Bhava is a preliminary state, it's not absolutely pure. So you cannot go in that state to the spiritual world. Now, of course, if you are on bhava, Krishna can make an exception, take you to the spiritual world, but then he'll remove all your remaining impurities, and then you'll get prema there when you get there. But generally, you can't go with any impurities, sattva, raja, tamas, karmas, material desires, etc. Zero of those things in the spiritual world. So therefore, you have qualifications generally prema, and then we can get there. Even bhava, you have to get to prema first, then you can go.
So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said that if you can chant my name or if you can remember me at the time of death, you definitely come to my abode.
Yeah.
So only those who are in prema stage are only able to remember Krishna's name.
Yeah. Well, that's a general statement. He doesn't say immediately also. You remember Krishna when you die, but you haven't got prema. Then you would go for another few births, and eventually you get to Krishna. So it's not immediate, but you're still, obviously, it's a great advantage to remember Krishna when you die, because then you get another devotee body or whatever like that, and you can progress nicely. And the devotee himself is not demanding that he should go immediately to the Lord also. He also says, well, the devotee will think, well, when Krishna wants, he can take me there, but I'm not demanding to go to spiritual world. In other words, salokya, or desire for the same planet of the Lord, if we just desire that, that's also an impurity. So the devotee will only accept service to the Lord, And if the Lord gives service, he's happy. And if he takes you to spiritual world, fine. Gives spiritual world, fine. But devotee is not asking for those things. He's only asking for the service to the Lord in prema. And the case is also there that maybe a devotee's in prema, then suddenly he dies in an accident, he doesn't think anything, he just suddenly dies. What happens? So the answer, Ramanujacharya, it doesn't matter, he says. If he's on that state, whether he remembers or doesn't remember, doesn't really matter. He's under the Lord's mercy, so the Lord takes him.
What is the difference between anartha and aparadha?
Huh?
Anartha and aparadha.
Oh, yeah. Well, in Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the aparads are a type of anartha, because anartha means all the impurities or something that we hold in our mental body, covering the jiva. So that's all the material desires for enjoyment, desires for svargaloka, desires for liberation, desires for yoga cities, etc. All of the transmutations of our desires, like anger, hatred, greed, desire for position, desire for fame, cheating propensity, all these things. These are called, weaknesses of heart, those things. And another type of anartha is the aparads. Nam aparads, seva aparads, that's for deity. Nam aparads concerning the name and bhakti. And Vaishnava aparads, offenses against devotees. And jiva aparads, offenses against jiva. So these are the aparad section. So if these aparads are not really intentional and filled with hatred, then they just remain as like anarthas. And through the process of anartha nivritti, when we do bhakti, then gradually these get destroyed and we come to nishta, and ruchi, asakti, bhava, and prema. So gradually bhakti will destroy all those. However, if those offenses are intentional and with malice, hatred, or whatever, then they're very destructive. And we don't get purified by the bhakti. They destroy the bhakti instead. And of the worst of those is the Vaishnava aparad, offending the devotee. So this is called the mad elephant offense in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the mad elephant will come in the garden and destroy everything. So we have to be very careful of the intentional aparads, and particularly the Vaishnava aparad. They're much more serious than sinful activities. Because sinful activities are, of course, bad karma. But the aparads, they can damage your bhakti.
Also, Maharaj, you are a practitioner of Reiki. So, how do you see that Reiki in connection with Krishna consciousness? How can you use in the service of Lord?
Well, Reiki, or not just Reiki, we have pranic healing, we have alternative medicines, we have Ayurveda, we have acupuncture in China, and Chinese herbal medicine, and so many alternative therapies like this around in the world. And then we have Western medicine. So they're all attempts to adjust our body and cure our body. And because we want to have a healthy body to perform bhakti, then we can use any of these methods according to what we find convenient for our body, and then use them. That's all. So it's just a method of keeping our body in good health so we can serve Krishna.
What is the big remedy to remove aparads? What is the remedy to remove aparads?
To remove aparads, intentional aparads? Unconscious aparads are removed by knowledge, so we recite the 10 aparads every day, so we remember, okay, I'm not going to do any of these aparads. So mainly the devotees will not be committing intentional aparads in most cases, or unintentional. So if we commit the intentional ones, somehow we get carried away with anger and ignorance against devotees, etc., or whatever, then it's very damaging, and gradually our taste for bhakti decreases. So we have to remedy that. So in the case of course, in Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a remedy for each of the 10 aparads, and nam aparads, what to do in each case. The most serious one, of course, is the Vaishnava aparad. So for that, he says that you have to go to the person that you have offended, and you have to apologize and be repentant. and follow his instructions like that. So that's the basic remedy. And if you don't do that, the effect of the aparad gets worse.
Ajamla's accidental blessing was an aparati, was the previous design of somebody on an execution of rule book.
Of?
Rule book.
Well, there was no history of why. He simply named his son Narayana, so it's not explained why he named his son Narayana. But he probably heard the name, so he said, "Your name is Narayana," and then immediately all of his karma is destroyed. So it's not something that he did consciously.
So the design of somebody.
What?
To get them the blessing.
No, it's the very nature of the name, as empowered by Krishna to destroy all your karmas, simply by uttering the name once. That's not that anybody makes it happen, it's Krishna's arrangement.
Is it based on some sastric
Yeah.
evidence? Or
Yeah, Bhagavatam. Yeah, right there in the Bhagavatam, it says he chanted the name once, karma's gone. And then we'll look at the Padma Purana also and many other scriptures. It will say that even chanting the name once will destroy all your karmas. So
Did
it's,
it offset only saparatas?
he didn't have any aparads, only sins. Sins and aparads different.
What is the difference?
Aparads are against devotees, Krishna, and the process of bhakti. Sins are against just general living entities, lying, cheating, whatever like that, but not against devotees. So lots of those he had, lots of sinful activity.
Aparats were not. There was no aparats, so he got it.
Yeah.
He had only sins.
Only sins, yeah.
Prabhu, what is more appropriate and important, faith or bhakti?
Well, faith is the qualification for bhakti, so very necessary. We don't have faith, we cannot practice bhakti. So it's very, very necessary. That faith, of course, means faith in bhakti scriptures, and willingness to follow the instructions of the bhakti scriptures. That's what faith means. So it's very necessary, in other words. That qualification is there, and once we practice bhakti, then that faith deepens and deepens and deepens, and becomes very strong, and it's very favorable for our development of bhakti. So we can include it kind of within bhakti, but actually we separate it because it's a qualification for bhakti. But it's intrinsically related to bhakti.
Maharaj, we always heard like happiness from material things does not last long. But what about kirtan? Kirtan is a spiritual thing. But after as soon as we come out from the kirtan, we lost the happiness.
Kirtan is temporary happiness also. Well, in our conditioned state, then yes, because our bhakti also we're getting, we can say, transient effects. Sometimes we get nice effects from the kirtan or from hearing or whatever like that, and then when we go away, then it disappears, whatever. So that's the case in the material world where we're not on a higher level. The higher you go, the more permanent it becomes. And if you get to the prema level, then the bliss of kirtan never stops. Even if they stop the kirtan, it goes on. Internally it's going on. Because you're part of the spiritual world at that time, and the kirtan is going on there eternally. So everything is eternal in the spiritual world. But because we're coming out of the conditioned world, then we get interrupted in all of our actions. So in other words, we can't do continuous kirtan. We cannot continuously think of Krishna. We cannot continually hear. Everything is interrupted. But that's not the fault of the process. It's the fault of our material anarthas and whatever interrupting us. Planets?
How other planets can affect our life?
Well, one way of looking at it is not that they affect your life, they merely indicate what's going wrong in your life. So it's like indications, like signs or whatever like that. So in other words, we can take astrology as the science of interpreting what karmas you're going to get by looking at planets. Not that they're causing anything, but just they're symptomatic of a certain pattern of karma in your life, that's all. So there's a way of interpreting karmas, that's all, rather than say they are directly zapping some energy from Jupiter or Uranus or something so far away, which the scientists say is ridiculous. How can the planets, electromagnetic energy reach us that far away. It doesn't happen. Huh? So not like that, but just that they are, indicators. So we just read the indications, then we pick up what your karmas are. Huh? But the other thing is that though it may look real strange, how come planets influence from so far away? In quantum physics, they say that a leaf falling on one side of the universe is related to a particle on the other side of the universe. So it can affect a particle across the universe instantaneously. That's quantum physics. So everything is related to everything ultimately in the material world according to quantum physics. So therefore, you can take one little portion of reality, and out of that you could read other parts of reality. So we take one little portion of reality, the planet's arrangement at your birth, and from that we can read your karma of your life. It's another way of looking at it. And there's other ways you can do it also, not just that. In China, they had a method of looking at the plum blossoms falling off the tree in the springtime, and they would give you an interpretation of that, what that meant. Yeah? So that's another way to do it. Another people, they look at the bumps on your head or something. From that, they can tell so many things or whatever. So there's many ways you can do it. In South India, Kerala, they take the shells, I think, and they throw them on the board, and then they interpret things on the board like that. How they give you a future from that. Ask a question, get an answer just by throwing the seashells in a certain pattern. Yeah? So we can take any part of reality, and we have a method we can interpret that. After 5,000 years. So that's when Lord Chaitanya appears, basically 5,000 years into Kali Yuga, then we get a 10,000 year period. Yeah. But that's a little small period because the whole period is like 400,000 years. So it's just a little portion there, the rest is going to be pretty bad.